In this video, I'll be talking about absolute values. So absolute values, um, they're not too complicated when you're just dealing with numbers. They can be a little bit messy when you get them in an algebraic equation that you need to solve, but that's not what this video is about. It's just about how do I find the absolute value of numbers. Alright, so absolute value is really finding how far away a number is from zero. So a number line is a useful tool for students that are struggling to get their head around this absolute value idea, and also to work with negative numbers, like what happens if I do something like 5 minus 8. I end up with a negative number. How do I see that? So let's use this number line tool and talk about absolute values. Okay, so basically an absolute value, first of all, it is always positive, and we denote absolute value using these special vertical brackets, like this. So if I stick some number inside of there, like what's the absolute value of 3? Well, that's just a positive 3. There's nothing really that changes when you take the absolute value of a positive number. But what if I have a negative number? So the absolute value of minus 3. Remember, nothing negative ever comes out of absolute value brackets. It has to be positive. And all this does is change that minus sign to a plus sign. So absolute value of minus 3 is plus 3. Okay? And I said before that absolute value is really the distance of a number from 0. Look at how far away 3 is from 0, and of course negative 3 is the same distance from 0. So that's why plus 3 and minus 3 have the same absolute value. They're both the same distance from 0. In distance, you never give a negative number. You wouldn't say something is minus 3 meters long. It's plus 3 meters long. It doesn't make sense to give a negative number for distance. So that's what an absolute value is. It's just distance from the number 0 on that number line. Another way to think of it is absolute value doesn't affect the positive number, and if you put a negative number in there, it will flip the sign so that it becomes positive. One other thing to note about absolute values is they are a bracket. So remembering BADMAS, that order of operations, brackets you do first. So if you have something like 3 minus 5 plus 2, how do you solve this? You have to do inside the brackets first. So those absolute value, they're a bracket, and then they also change anything inside there to be positive. Okay, so first I do that 3 minus 5, and I'll end up with minus 2 in there. And I just leave the plus 2 untouched. How do I see that 3 minus 5 is minus 2? Some people struggle with this. I tell such students to start with the number line. You begin with the 3, and then I want to take away 5. So I got subtracting 5 is moving to the left, 5 on the number line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see you end up at this minus 2 spot. So some people find that easy. 3 minus 5 is minus 2. Some don't. If you don't, just try this number line trick. Usually when math is hard, it's worth it to just kind of write out more steps, really write down on paper what you're trying to think of, and then your problems will be exposed and you'll realize what you're not understanding, and then you can, tackle that one small issue. Okay, so back to our problem. 3 minus 5 in absolute value brackets, then plus 2. First I got to do the brackets, and then this minus 2 is within absolute value bracket, so it becomes plus 2. And then I still have my other plus 2. So altogether that works out to be 4. Let's try another one just to do one more example. So if I have, let's say 8 minus 4, subtract 1 minus 7. All right, let's see what happens here. I got two brackets. I have to do those brackets first before I can subtract the two things. So 8 minus 4 in this bracket, that leaves a plus 4. It's still in absolute values, so we'll deal with that on the next step. Subtract 1 minus 7. 1 minus 7 will be minus 6. Okay. Start on your number line, go 7 to the left, you'll end up at minus 6. Let's do the absolute value step next. So I take the absolute value of 4, that is 4. I don't have to write the absolute value brackets anymore. I already found the absolute value. What's the absolute value of the minus 6? Well, that is plus 6. So I've got this minus here, and then instead of the minus 6 there, it becomes a plus 6. And now I have 4 minus 6, and the final answer is minus 2. Okay, so each absolute value itself ended up being a positive number, but the final answer was negative just because I had 4 minus 6 at the last step. And that's it. That's really all there is to absolute values of real numbers. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments.